Hello, everyone. I am super excited for this panel. And we have some, yes, here is Dr. Fink is back with us. So we love Dr. Fink.
Hey,
Mr. Fink.
Hey, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Oh, Eric.
Yeah. Everyone's popping up here.
Yeah. So we have some legends in the house, and I am so thrilled to be in the same virtual room with my heroes. And we had Dr. Fink join us earlier, but he is so gracious and he's joining us again. But we also have with us my personal favorite sax player. And you have to understand that I grew up listening to Eric Leeds, like other people listen to Coltrane. Like he is, you know, I mean,
you poor girl.
Wow.
Because
I'm the same way. So
yeah. And also like, you know, Bliss, like you're my Miles Davis, because you guys are the soundtrack to my life. And I know your horn lines, you know, like on the back of my hand. So this means so much to me. You have no idea how many hours of listening pleasure. And the reason why I really wanted to do this right now is because the world is in a really crazy place. And when the world gets in a crazy place, I personally cling to Prince like nobody business, like the music. And the music has gotten me through many of a day. And I was hoping to bring a little light to some people out there who also get through life with music. Music is really important. And so I just want to say thank you for taking time out to talk to us today about Sign of the Times, because we're here to celebrate the release of the Sign of the Times Super Deluxe box set, and also talk specifically about, I think, the incredible New Year's Eve show at Paisley Park that featured Miles Davis on the stage with Prince and the band. And I thought that was an incredible moment. So we're going to talk about that. But before we do, I want to introduce my personal favorite podcast host, Michael Dean. And he has the podcast on Prince. He has a phenomenal podcast with Eric Leeds. If you haven't checked it out, it's like 3 parts. It's incredible. I think it's actually my favorite podcast you've ever done, Michael. Is, you know, like that's the one that I sort of, that's the bar, that one. It was a really great conversation.
Really? I had 3 parts. You could put up with all of that.
Yeah, and there's people that watched it like 4 or 5 times. You can imagine it's like 4 hours and stuff. So.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, I'm one of those people. For me, it was too short.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, Eric's always been, you know, a talkative guy.
Yeah.
Well, the thing, Eric had receipts, like he had dates and stuff. Like,
he's the historian for sure.
So
he's a historian.
Yeah.
So, Eric, I wanted to ask, you know, would you ever consider like publishing your journal? Because there are journals out there. I think it would be really awesome for the Prince community, because one of the things that I'm more interested in is, you know, accuracy. And I think that there's a lot of confusion about dates and things of that nature. And I think that your journal probably, I mean, it is like the best resource that we have, you know, for a lot of stuff that was going on.
Well, as far as the recording sessions go to Dwayne Tudall's books.
Yeah.
Because he got everything from me. I mean, you know.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah. So everything that he has that can be attributed to me was attributed to me. The thing about my journal is that I mean, it's all the dates and all the names of the songs that we do, but to be honest, I could no more tell you about 60 to 70% of those songs. They're just titles to me. So you know, to just put out a journal and say on this, you know, on June 5th, 1987, we were in the studio and we recorded this song. What would you like to say about this song? I don't remember the first damn thing about the song. So I mean, I don't really see the value in just putting it out. So as far as the dates, you know, just the facts, Dwayne got pretty much all of that. So his books are, I mean, you know, for the people that are really into the facts about the recording sessions, Dwayne is the guy. I mean, he is to Prince's music what my brother Alan is to James Brown's music.
Yes. All right. So I'm sure Dwayne is happy to hear that. So what I'd like to do is start off with Bliss. And I would love to hear sort of the origin story of my most favorite dynamic duo, Atlanta Bliss and Eric Leeds. How did you guys meet? Where did you guys play together before you met Prince? You know, how did Eric get you into the Prince fold? And can we hear about your journey with Eric Leeds?
This is only an hour and a half long, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really interested to hear from your
It's a
perspective.
long story here.
I know the lies that I tell about us. I'm curious to hear your lies.
My turn.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, Eric and I actually grew up together at Duquesne University. Eric, and we're in Pittsburgh, and met at Duquesne University, and played in the jazz band on and off together in the big Duquesne jazz band. And then after college, a friend of ours, I guess mutual friend of ours, was starting a group, sort of a pseudo jazz pop group that was traveling, and it was a quintet. And his name, and he went to Duquesne also. Elke Stereopolis Quintet. We had 5 pieces, and we played things like hospitality inns all over the East Coast, and we went down to Florida and played down in Jacksonville, and and then we went to Indianapolis. Remember Indianapolis? It was around the 500, around the time of the race, and we knew that track inside and out. So the experience.
We were there every weekend for like
we knew the track inside and out.
Yeah.
But the music we made was really good too. I mean, we played, of course, we played some pop hits, but then we played a lot of jazz things too. And we had our time towards the end of each night that we would just open things up, and Eric would play some incredible saxophone lines and take us to places that we had never been. And then I play some, and we go just, it was really nice that's what music was about back then. We could investigate and really be exciting with the music. So, traveled for a little bit with, I guess a good bit with that. And then we started on the corner. On the corner was it 10 pieces?
8.
8?
8. Four horns, rhythm section, and lead vocalist. Yeah.
And of course we played all the tower power of the average white band, and
it was a good time to have a band like that.
Yeah. But back then, the Altec Lansing speakers were as big as a house, and we had to carry we were the road crew and the truck drivers and everything, and the road crew made more money than we did every week. I think we ended up making like $125 a week, and they ended up making they made $175 a week, and we'd play 8 nights a week. There were so many places to play, and just and the crowds that we would get they'd just be excited. Music scene back in Pittsburgh, and I guess that was late 70s. Late 70s, and it was happening. And same thing, Eric would write, and it was pretty formal. Eric would bring the charts to us from the whatever song we were working on, and Eric would write horn parts, and everyone would have the chord charts, and we just rehearsed.
Everyone in the band read music. Yeah. So it's easy. Here. Let's go.
Yeah. So that was On the Corner. Of course, that was named after after Miles Davis On the Corner album. Miles was always a mentor of mine since I picked up the trumpet and heard Kind of Blue. I mean, that was like, what is it? No, first before mine way back. Listened to Bitches Brew back in 1969. I said, what is this? I said, I don't know what this is, but I'm not ready for it yet. So I put it away for a while, and then started hanging around with Eric, and he said, oh yeah, this is the shit. And that's where we really started getting into Miles, and we got On the Corner, and then after that we had Taken Names Band. Certainly a great friend of ours, H.B. Bennett was our drummer, and Eric and HB were like and of course Alan Leeds, he was our manager. He was Mr. Manager.
Mr. Manager.
And he and they gave us some great direction in the band. We made we did some recordings together and played a lot. Mm-hmm. Again, we played 8 nights a week, and it was
band was together for about a year and a half, and in that year and a half we played over 360 gigs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, then that was taking names, and then Eric went off after that band. He went with Billy Price, and then I started my own band called the Parker Brothers for a band. It was a club in Mount Lebanon, PA, called the Boardwalk, and it was fashioned and decorated after the Boardwalk, the Monopoly game. So there was parts all of the game all over the walls and everything. So they talking about a house band. I said, yeah, I can put a house band. What's the name? Well, let's see. Who invented the game? Well, the Parker Brothers. Okay, well, we're the Parker Brothers. So we were the Parker. We had a great time. We had a great run there.
A hell of a band.
Music.
That was,
yeah, good players.
Yeah.
And then likewise, well, you tell them about Billy while we're on here.
Yeah, well, Billy Price is a blues singer originally from New Jersey. He had gone to Penn State University and formed a band originally called the Rhythm Kings, and then it turned into Billy Price and the Keystone Rhythm Band, and I joined that band. I was with that band for 4 years, and once again, in the 4-year period, the band was together for about a year before I joined it. It stayed together for, I think, another 6-7 years after I left the band. But just in the 4 years that I was in the band, and this is no bullshit because I've got the journals. I played, that band played 981 gigs just the 4 years I was with it.
Oh my!
So that's basically you're averaging 250 to 260 gigs a year. Being a bar band musician was back in those days.
Traveling, you guys traveled a lot too.
We rode about 50% of the time, mostly on the East Coast. We were on a circuit with bands and musicians like we opened for Muddy Waters. We opened for Duff. Wow. We did a gig with John. We did gigs with Albert Collins, the Room Full of Blues, the Thunderbirds, and of course we did double bills on occasion with Stevie Ray Vaughan. But this was before Stevie Ray blew up and became a superstar. But this was the circuit that we were on. And Duke Robillard and his group, Bob Margolin, these are some of the greatest blues bands you could ever imagine. This is the circuit that we were on. And it was traveling, a 7-piece band traveling in a van, doubling and tripling up in hotel rooms every night, would be on the road for a week or two at a time. You drive 250 miles to the next gig, do a three-set gig, stay at some shit-ass motel, get up the next day, pile in the van, go do it all over again. That's what being a musician was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, now
at the end of the week, I might bring home $250.
Wow. And this is like no record deal. This is just out.
Yeah, just out playing.
Well, actually, Billy Price, we did record several albums independently under that name. Now, Billy, Pittsburgh now. Billy is still one of the most well-respected and well-known artists in blues. He's had several albums recently that are just phenomenal, and he's been, for example, artist in residence at some of the major blues festivals and things like that. So, I mean, for anyone out there, just Google Billy Price, and you can thank me in the morning. This cat is just absolutely one of the most phenomenal singers and musicians I've ever worked with.
Is there an album that do you recommend that we start with?
His latest one called Dog Eat Dog. It's absolutely fabulous.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's Price. Dog Eat Dog. Yeah, go with that one. Start from there. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I recorded one album with them. What was it? You're under arrest, or what was that called?
Yeah, you're. They found me guilty. They found me guilty. That was the name of it. Yeah. As a matter of fact, Matt, I don't know if you remember this. When we were in Washington on the Love Sexy tour, and Prince pulled us into the studio one night, in a little studio in Silver Spring, Maryland, and we got to the studio, and on the wall was the Billy Price album, because that's where that album had been mixed. And I pointed that album up to Prince and said, Prince, as far as me and Bliss are concerned, you ain't our first rodeo. You looked at that album.
That's funny.
Okay.
That's good. Yep.
Wow.
Billy Price.
So, Bliss, how did you get into the Prince fold? I'm sure that Eric sort of hooked you in. Do you remember the conversation?
Oh yeah. This is phenomenal. I was down in Atlanta, and I always did love Atlanta. That's not even a question. And Actually, I was
we were
doing
living
construction.
together. You and
Oh,
I
yeah.
and Mary Ann, and little Matthew was about 2 years old. We were sharing a
Yeah.
house down there. Yeah.
Yeah. Then Eric got the call, and he was playing on, Purple Rain. And then I got a call one night, and he said, "Hey, you're booked on a flight tomorrow morning to come up for an audition with Prince." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Yeah, an audition with Prince tomorrow." And I said, "Are you serious?" He said, "Yeah, I'm serious." I said, "Okay." Went down, and I hadn't really seriously played in 6-8 months. Said, "Okay." I went downstairs, pulled out my trumpet, and oiled the valves, and said a lot of prayers, lots of prayers, and played a little bit, and started getting my stuff together. And then Eric called back shortly after that. He said, "Hey, I'm sorry, the audition's off." And I said, "Well, hey, nothing lost, nothing gained, nothing lost." He said, "It's not an audition, it's a recording session." I said, "With Prince?" I said, "Oh, okay, if that's what the Lord wants, I'm in." Okay, so went up there, and it turned out then. Turned out, and I went up, and I was playing electric trumpet then. And Eric said, "Yeah, bring all that stuff up there." I had wah-wah pedals and phase shifters and all that stuff. And he said, "Yeah, bring all that stuff up." And I did, and really wasn't necessary for what we were doing, because the first thing we did was start recording mountains right away.
Yeah.
And I don't know who came up. Well, Matt, was that your line, the horn line that we started playing?
That
was Prince. That was Prince's line.
That's Prince. Yeah.
That was Prince's line. But the other alternate, I think that was mine.
Yeah, I wasn't involved with that song really.
Oh, yeah, that was Wendy and Lisa's song, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That keyboard, the main keyboard piano riff, was the foundation of that song from Lisa.
Oh.
Yeah.
So then Prince said, "Okay, well, you guys take a break," and or not you, talking to the rest of the band, and said to Eric and I, "Hey, you work with Wendy and Lisa on like a little horn break, is what we would call it," and that's what we did, or like the interlude that goes in there. And I don't know if that was my interview, like with Wendy and Lisa, and see how I work with everybody, and and that's came out great. Those two are incredible musicians, and it was fun to work with, and just the colors that we came out of that little interlude were really neat. So then,
do you remember what Prince said to you when he officially told you were hired?
I mean, about my hair?
Yeah.
Yeah. Back then, like I said, I was working construction. My hair was this short, and he said, "Okay, you got the gig, but you got to grow your hair long." I can do that, because it was always way down back of my back.
Did you say you was working construction before you got into that?
Yeah, commercial HVAC.
Wow.
Yeah.
And just to go back to that mountains, the mountains that we hear on the 12-inch version, is sort of extended. Is that y'all, like, because it gets serious, like in that sort of after the regular song, and it just gets into this whole breakdown and all this stuff? That's just
most of those lines, I think, were Prince's.
Really?
I think, if I remember. Yeah, for the 12-inch. Yeah.
So I got a quick question, Eric, about this. When he was initially going to be auditioning, and then it got changed to a session, did Prince decide to do that based on what he was hearing from a previous recording of
he had
Matt?
never heard Matt. He had
So
never
how did
heard
you
Matt.
How did you get him to just say
that was my joke on Matt, really, because
okay.
I was in this. We had just all gotten back from Nice, France, and I was in Miami with my parents because it was the day after Thanksgiving.
Oh.
And it was the Friday after Thanksgiving, and Alan called me and said, Prince wants everybody in Minneapolis tomorrow. And he said he asked me to ask you if you could recommend a trumpet player. And I said, well, you know who I'm going to recommend. And Alan said, yeah. So Alan called Matt, hooked him up. I think I actually might have called Matt first and said, okay, I got some good news and maybe some bad news. And Matt said, well, what's the guy? I said, the good news is Prince wants to check you out. The bad news is tomorrow morning. So after it was, I think that's when I think I called Matt back and said, oh, by the way, it's not really an audition. It's a recording session.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So it was like a semi-audition and testing in the recording studio to see what would happen. And that was
how it worked.
Cool.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I have to say, I had no trepidation or reason to feel that, this wasn't going to work, because obviously, as you understand, Matt and I had been playing together in almost any kind of musical situation that two horns could be in for over 10 years. I mean, you know, I could add the one thing to that year that we were with the singer Alki Styriopoulos. It was basically, I mean, it was a lounge band. I mean, we did aspire to, you know, and we played a lot of standards, and Alki gave us a lot of room to play. But I mean, there were some nights where we were playing 6 sets, you know, from 8 p.m. until 2 in the morning.
Indiana.
And that was the gig that I think for me, and I think for Matt too, by the time we got done with that gig over the period of a year, that was the year for me where I really started to get my shit together.
Oh.
You know, and that was the kind of gig that gave you the opportunity to say, okay, we've got all of these standards from the Great American Songbook that we're going to be playing. And when you're playing 4 or 5, 6 hours a night, you get your shit together.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. And you know, it's interesting. It really prepared you to do Madhouse, then the Sign of the Times gig, and then the after show gigs all in one evening.
Oh yeah.
And then not get out of there till the sun was coming up at the after show gig.
Nothing different from us. Yeah, I'm the norm.
You what? Yeah,
that's what we did.
Yeah.
Non-stop playing. Hey, Eric, you going to show that photo?
Oh, yeah. Let me aim my camera again.
Yeah, I'm going to take the full screen.
Publicity photo from the Alki Styriopoulos.
Back up a little bit.
Back it up a little bit. There you go.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah. And to
Alki's in the middle.
Alki's in the middle. Matt is to his right. And I'm
Eric's
off on the end, holding up the
his right. Okay.
Yeah, holding up the pole.
Yeah.
The fellow to Alki's left was our drummer. His name was Rich Scampone. The bass player was
Chemo. Michael
Farrell was his name, but he was known as Chemo. Yeah.
Wow.
And y'all was clean. I love it.
Well, it was a tuxedo gig. That's what it was.
That's what we wore.
Wow.
Gig. Yeah.
You know what, Eric? That's the first time I've ever seen or heard about this. I don't know if you've ever told me about that group before.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I want to transition a little bit because I just from experience, the 90 minutes is going to go by super fast based on the previous roundtables that we've had. And I want to talk a little bit about the New Year's Eve show at Paisley Park that's included in the new Sign of the Times Super Deluxe box set. And I am going to show a clip. And before anyone says it, we're not playing any sound from this clip. So I know there's no sound. So just be aware that there will be no sound in this clip that I'm sharing. And before we start talking about this, I'm going to back this up. I just want to thank Dr.Fink for introducing Prince to this plasma ball. So
I was the guy that introduced Prince to the plasma ball. Yes.
Hold on one second.
And the reason it happened, I was in New Orleans and I went to the actual art gallery where those were being shown by the original guy, the originator of those, the guy who designed the first ones. It was in a special showing in an art gallery in New Orleans. I saw those. I took pictures. I got a brochure about it. There was a whole bunch of them in there, and they were very big. And I showed them to Prince. I said, Prince, this could be an interesting stage prop. What do you think? And he looked at it and he said, yeah, that's really interesting. He's like, where is that? And I said, it's just, a few blocks from here. And I think he may have even gone down there to look at him, but I'm not sure. I just know that it inspired him and he ended up using it for this.
Wow.
You should have had a theremin in your rig.
You're absolutely right. I probably
would have been perfect with that. Yeah.
Yeah. A theremin would have gone well with that. Yeah. For those of you who aren't privy to a theremin out there, that is an instrument invented by a guy named Theremin. He was a Russian gentleman. But anyway, it was an instrument in the 1920s. It was invented, and it was all done with using your hands around these metal. There was like a metal rod, and it just sensed where you were close to the rod. So it was like one rod going up and down and one going this way. And one was pitch and one was modulation, vibrato, and you'd use your hands and when you listen to the song "Good Vibrations" by the Beach Boys, that's that instrument, the woo, playing that high part, and it's used a lot in science fiction films in the 50s too, the theremin instrument, because it was eerie sounding.
Yeah.
So anyway, just a little aside while you're watching the silent performance.
Yes.
Yeah, just imagine a theremin while this is going on.
Yeah. Right.
So seeing this footage, so I know Eric and also Dr. Fink, you guys participated in the estate's sort of reveal of the show a week or so ago. I don't know if you watched it then, but
Yeah.
did it bring back any memories for you? Particularly, it's going to be a beautiful night, this part. I'd love to hear like what it brought up for you.
It was fast.
Yeah, it was a fast one.
The tempo was like,
Yeah.
you know,
Way
way fast on this.
faster than the album version, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's how Prince liked to do live stuff. He liked
He
hotter
liked
tempos on everything.
Yeah.
'Cause-
There is a point that I want to make about the whole concert that I think sometimes it gets lost in the discussion. This concert was a benefit
Right.
Mhm.
for an organization to raise money to buy clothes. I think it was for homeless people and people in need. And particularly that year was, even by Minneapolis standards, was an extraordinarily cold winter, and so this concert was organized for that reason to raise money for that. I think that's something that's important for everyone to know.
Yeah, that's very important. So speaking of this, actually, having Prince speed up everything actually answers a question that I had. One of my favorite covers that you guys used to do in rehearsal is the Ohio Players on Skin Tight. But I always noticed, like, why are they playing it so fast? So now I understand. So did you guys, I'm assuming you guys knew that Miles would be on stage with you. Did you know it would be for this particular song? Like, how was that introduced to you by Prince? Like that Miles Davis would be joining you guys for this benefit?
Actually, if I can take that, the first thing that I got privy to it, I'm sure Eric knew and maybe Matt did too before, but Prince's the guy he traveled with came up to me and he said, "Hey, Miles has his trumpet rig, like his microphone, his clip-on microphone and the wireless thing, and he said he'd like you to try it and make sure that it works, like give a sound check." And I said, "Wait, I'm going to try Miles's rig? This is incredible." So I did, and it worked and everything. And to tell you the truth, my stuff was like 100 times better than his. And I told him that after the show.
Huh.
And he said, "Talk to my man about that." And he said, tell him get the good stuff. Because I was using, he was using Nady stuff, and I was using the German. What's the German stuff that we used?
Neumann?
Yeah, no, not Neumann. It started with an S.
Sennheiser.
Yeah, Sennheiser, exactly. Sennheiser,
right?
And it was real.
Yeah.
In fact, Sennheiser came out in Germany and tweaked me up. That was really cool. But anyways, I found Miles was there, and that's how I found out. But we didn't know when he was going to come out, or I didn't see him or anything prior to. Did any of you guys see him before?
No.
I remember it being. I think I knew that it was going to be Beautiful Night only because that was the most obvious, thing, because that was a song that we would always open up and just jam on for a while. So without really remembering specifically, I just have a recollection that we all pretty much just knew that it was going to probably be on that. So
what can I ask? For Miles Davis, I know for a lot of us, we understand what Miles means to music and just to the game and everything. But to some of the newer, maybe younger fans who have not been exposed to Miles, for you guys as musicians, can you tell us, like, what did Miles mean to you? Like, to have somebody of that magnitude step on the stage. Can you put that in the context of, what that meant to you guys?
Go ahead, Eric.
Well, for me, wow. I mean, once again, there's so many ways you can kind of answer that. For in the history of progressive music, instrumental music, whether you want to call it jazz or whatever you want to call it, in post World War II, there were several musicians that were beyond just musicians. Miles was an artist. I mean, he more than anything else, he was an artist who happened to be a musician, who happened to be a trumpet player. And his music was always so relevant to what was going on at any given period of time, particularly through the years from the early 50s through the mid 70s. And he kind of was one of those people like Prince, and it was what he saw in Prince. That was an artist that kind of set the standards of what was possible. You know, you'd listen to Miles's music and you'd say, oh, now I know what I might be able to do, or within a context. And there are very, very few artists that I think really, really rise to that level. In jazz, certainly Miles, John Coltrane, Duke Ellington, in pop music, Ray Charles, James Brown, and obviously Prince. Stevie Wonder was somebody like that. But and then basically it just gets into personal taste. It's just what is it about a certain artist's music that you like more than another? And no one can really answer that.
It's all about the emotion and how you make it feel.
Exactly. And Miles as a band leader that was the other thing, because all of his contributions were not just because of his trumpet playing, but was because of his band leading and what he saw in the musicians that he would have with him, whether it was Wayne Shorter, Herbie Hancock, before that, John Coltrane. And so many of these musicians are the ones that went out and continued to expand the vocabulary. I mean, Wayne Shorter and Joe Zawinul went and created the band Weather Report, which for the next 15 years was probably the standard of what progressive music could be. That's what Miles was about.
Yeah. Well, let me add, Miles, from what even before meeting up with Eric and everything from bebop to the kind of blue, to the cool jazz, and then the progressive jazz, and then even the electrics. If you get into, in fact, that's what Eric really turned me on to, the electric side with the Agharta and those albums. And we knew those things. We were on the road, and we knew every line of those things inside and out.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just he developed, the people he put around him were just so creative. That's what he was about. That's why he was a great band leader, in addition to be and develop the music. He, like Prince, I tell people all the time, he, like Prince, are so creative. They never wanted to do the same thing twice. So they never wanted, obviously Prince didn't want to do Purple Rain twice. That's why Prince got into almost symphonic things and jazz things and hard funk things and just trying all different avenues. That's the same thing that Miles did, an experimenter in music and developer. That's what happens. You experiment, you develop.